I should probably get started here. It's being recorded. Um, Thanks for everybody who's joining. And I'm going to just run through this. We only have 15 minutes. I want to make sure that if anybody had any questions, please just pop in to share audio video. I'll leave some time at the end, or you can just put it in the chat, of course, and then I'll try to leave some time at the end and we can talk through any questions people have. Otherwise, I'm going to share my screen and get rolling. Scaling engineering from startup to market leader was what I wanted to share. And a little bit of background myself. Scott Josephson, I'm the director of product engineering at FMG Suite. FMG Suite is a SaaS company. All of our engineering is in the Minnesota area, upper Midwest, but we are also around the country with offices, various places. We do digital marketing automation for professional services. Think insurance agents and financial advisors. So that's the background, and I'll get rolling. In my mind, there's sort of three main areas that are the key parts to scaling engineering, and it's people, product, and process. And of course, alliteration is great, so all P's helps. And when you think about these things, what helps me is to have sort of a framework to think through what got us here, what made us successful. What are the things that we sort of rode the backs of that we were good decisions, and what are those things that got us here that we should continue to do, so let's keep on doing. What will get us next? What's the next thing that we have to grow into, either new market or whatever it may be, that we didn't do before that we need to start doing? And then what's holding us back? What are the things you need to let go of, stop doing? So it's the keep doing, stop doing, and start doing. Talk first on scaling people. I feel like this is the most important thing. Yes, engineering is about code. It's about platform and AWS or cloud, but it's really about people at the end of the day. And hiring is probably going to be a big thing for you if it hasn't been already. And that, if you haven't heard, like HR people or anybody who's done hiring, it's one of the most expensive things that you can do wrong as a wrong hire. So really be thinking about, how do I want to do this consistently? What am I actually looking for? So you're not just trying to get some random person, but you're actually thinking through that and have plans, have a 30-day and a 90-day onboarding. Start creating documentation so you can be repeatable. When you're doing hiring, a big part to think about is, how are they fitting within the group that I already have? Because team is way more important than an individual. You can get people who are rock stars and ninjas, but in general, especially as you scale into multiple teams, you have to be able to work really well as a group. And that just, team is more important. We went a long time with not really having core values as a department. Yeah, of course they are for the company, but what are your departmental core values? We started with all of our sarcastic ones that, showed up in Slack that we all sort of ribbed each other about. But it eventually really got to, we value this over this. Whatever format those core values are, start to really write them down when they come up in a conversation. Another thing to think about is generalists versus specialists. As you scale, or as you started as a startup, you probably had to wear a bunch of different hats. Your engineers had to wear a bunch of different hats. And that's great. It got you off the ground. It got you to where you are. But as you continue to go, as you continue to grow, the platform, the product, the knowledge can't onboard somebody and give them this broad breadth of a product and then be able to hold it all in their head to be able to understand it all. And so you have to start specializing. So as you think about that, is we did a lot of generalists. We wanted people who know our technology, who knew the cloud, and then we'll just teach you all the other things and you're going to learn the entire platform. But we had to start specializing and getting good in this area and this area. Something I think about is, throughout the entire organization, what you want everybody to be a CEO of something, an owner of something, whether they're a junior person, senior, or whatever it may be. So what can you specialize in and be a champion for or a leader for? Aces in places sort of goes along with the same idea that we talk a lot about. Even if you, no matter where you are in your career trajectory, you can be really strong in certain areas, and let's put you in a place where you will succeed. When you started and you have a small team, again, everybody's sort of doing everything, but maybe there's one area there they're really excited about, they really want to learn a lot more about, and really focus on those areas and let them specialize. Let them be in the place where they will succeed the best. Communication is the bane of scaling. So there's this classic thing about the Mystery Man month, right? That if you have one developer and you add a second developer, you're not twice as fast, you're about 50% as fast. And as you add more people, they all have to communicate. And you can imagine all those communication arrows. If they all have to communicate, then you're going to start breaking down. You're not going to be able to be very effective, very productive. So how do you reduce communication is a big part to being able to scale people well. There's a whole nother talk that somebody could give about two pizza teams from Jeff Bezos and Amazon. We follow a lot of that principle and thinking that smaller teams that can actually enable and push things to production are entirely self-encapsulated. They can do their own customer value instead of having these separate disciplines. But how to reduce communication effectively is a big part to being able to scale people well. Scaling product. First part would be is if you got into where you are as a startup and as you really probably hit product market fit, you can think about deprecating and killing features, because invariably you built this and then you built that and then you built that and that, and not all those things are used. And it's very healthy and good to go back and actually remove things that are no longer needed. You don't need things because they're not using. If you've done a decent job, hopefully you have some analytics, app analytics, to show what people are actually doing on your platform. And you can actually see that and start killing features that are not well utilized. Monolith, ride it till it hurts. Essentially, there's monolith versus microservices. I'm not going to get into that flame war. But if you have a monolith, that's great. It's gotten you where it is, where you are now. Don't try to change it. But as you keep going, think about where there are pains and where it does start to break down, and be flexible and start breaking pieces off. The best thing is that you know now what your product is and how it works and what it's supposed to do. So you can start to think about where those lines and those seams within your product are. Reducing technologies. You possibly have a few different technologies, languages, platforms, cloud infrastructure. As you try to figure out how to best build, how you're building your product, it's now a good chance to, again, reduce the scope. It's really hard to onboard somebody if you have 5 core languages that they have to understand, or 3 cloud implementations, or multiple pieces. Start to being consistent. We've made up the consistentize word, and that sort of goes along with deprecating and killing features. It's not just from the product side, but it's also about the technology side. Something we talk a lot about is innovation tokens. The idea is that you only have so many special areas that you can be really innovative in. If you try to be innovative in all of the different places, you're going to burn out and you can't be as fast and effective as you want to be. So thinking about what are the areas that are really helping us deliver for our customers, what makes us special, and you can double down on those and get rid of the others. And this sort of goes into the shortcuts idea. There's some things that are probably really poor practices, but they might be great for your specific scenario. Again, you're not solving general problems, you're solving specific problems, so you can use specific technology and specific patterns to do that. Lastly, it would be software that fits in your head is something we've been thinking about recently. Goes a little bit along with that communication part in people and teams before. But if you have a really hard time to explain how your product works, when you're talking ideation with a product manager and so forth, if you have a lot of these business rules, that doesn't fit in your head and you can't communicate it well, it's going to be really hard to communicate it to QA or customer service or your actual customers. So being able to really concisely, it's not about just documentation. People often talk about documenting your product really well. That's great. It is really good, important. But being able to concisely explain something is almost more valuable. Run through these here quick. Scaling process, I think I come from a process background myself. I would argue that process is the least valuable place for you to innovate. You should be innovating in your product. If you have a really special process and you can't find software or patterns or blog posts or something to follow from somebody else, take a second look at it. You probably are more generic than you think, and it's not worth trying to be, that special scenario. Again, keeping it simple, keeping it just enough, looking at what's manual as you scale. You cannot have manual steps and continue to have good quality and consistent outcomes. And then a big part of it is deployments. If you have one person doing deployments, if you have specific people doing specific actions, you really need to invest and take the time to invest in automated deployments, automated testing, anything that's going to get you to where clicking through stuff and a few as little manual steps as possible. Then lastly, just talk briefly about exit strategies. As you become a market leader, there may be some thinking about, another round of VC or private equity, IPO, acquisition, whatever it may be. As we've gone through a couple rounds of equity, these things sort of come up for us. Platform stability is a huge issue. If you have instability, you really need to get that under control, because that calls into question a lot of things. Linchpin developers, if you have one developer who sort of knows the entire platform and is the person you go to for a hot fix and the person you go to, solve the complicated business problem, they're the person who knows everything. If you lose that person as investing or in some type of exit strategy, that's a big red flag. So really surrounding that subject matter expert and separating and spreading that knowledge is a big deal. Skeletons in the closet, you probably know where they are. Just take some time, think about them, and think about ways that you can explain why it's actually not a big deal or how you can mitigate that. And then lastly, scaling via money. If you are an external company investing in you, you want to know that you can double or triple the platform, have a tremendous amount of growth, and you can just write checks to AWS or Azure, whatever infrastructure you have. You can just write checks and scale servers and not actually have to change fundamentally how the platform works. So being able to just scale by spinning up new servers, that's totally fine. But think about, if you can't, where are those specific areas? And again, just mitigating, being clear with where your not so scalability areas are and what your strategies are to go to the next step level. I'll stop there. Again, leave any time here if anybody wants to hang on. And any questions, just post them into the chat. I'll see if I can answer. My email address, reach out to me if you have any questions. I love talking about engineering, SaaS, product, all these sorts of things. Otherwise, thanks for attending. No questions? Yeah, I had to go fast. It's like 15 minutes. Thanks, Matt. Yeah. No typos. They gave me a short time.
Yo, hey Scott.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing all right, hanging in there.
I figured I'm giving a talk in like a little bit, and I figure I probably need to need like to test this tech anyway, and I figure I might as well say hello. And
Totally.
considering there's 4 people in the room, I might as well I thought I would say hi.
Yeah.
This is great. I feel like the talk that I'm going to give later is about like hiring developers, and just there have been so many other talks that have been very technical. It's like, like I know Andy from Modern Logic gave a talk on what to expect from a development team, and you're talking about sort of like the technical sides of growing and scaling, going from like MVP to like product market fit, so to speak, or like beyond. So even just like knowing that like this is a thing that people can refer back to later, like we'll totally point people to it after the fact and say go watch Scott's video from before.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
It is not as straightforward to be able to really. I think all these things sort of, what I didn't say is that Venn diagram, all these things interplay, right? Between as you scale people, all of a sudden now you realize like, my product's too complicated. I can't onboard somebody under my process and so forth. So
yeah, it's weird. It's like bringing somebody onto the team is definitely one of those things that expose. It's almost like tests. It's like as soon as you start writing tests, it exposes some like problems with how your stuff is structured. Yep. Same with like bringing people on the team. You're totally right. Cool. Well done. That was awesome. Bravo.
Thanks. Well, good luck in your talk.
Thanks,
when
man.
Is it at?
1:45.
Okay. Yep. Cool. I'll see if I can hop on.
Cool. All right.
Some tidbits myself.
Yep. Nice. Cool. Good to see you. Bye.
Thanks, everybody.